Finally, I decided to give my impression of Super Neptunia RPG that was released in 2018, developed by Artisan. And yes, it has been planned for a long time. And also, a tidbit is that I actually had an older recording, but for whatever reason, I wasn't paying attention and I accidentally deleted the old recording, giving my impression of the games. With that said, I guess this one's going to be sort of a shorter version to some extent because I did talk a lot about it, but to some extent, it was all about performance and censorship. So with that said, yes, so in this impression of Super Neptunia RPG, I will be giving my impression on the 3 version that I bought. Yes, I am an Idea Factory International fan. I do want to give them my money. I support the company. The people behind it are actually cool. They're cool in my book. And so with that said, also a bit of disclaimer that in this impression, the scores will be deducted because of also censorship, because if you're following what's happening with PlayStation in 2018, well, because their headquarters was in California, I know, they were doing left-wing stuff decision that is pissing a lot of developers to some extent. And yes, at a time, Idea Factory International games were getting censored. They were trying to be at least transparent. And at least each version, well, are different, and I'll explain that later. So first of all, what is Super Neptunia RPG? It's a Neptunia game spin-off, and it's developed by Artisan. They actually did another game that's actually much better than this one, Astaria Ascending. And they actually are a good developer. Super Neptunia RPG is a spin-off. It takes place in a different dimension called the 2D dimension. So everything is 2D. And that's why you notice the characters are like very cartoony, cel-shaded, yes. I mean, it's a common graphics that they use in other games, but that's the whole point of this one. And for whatever reason, all 4 goddesses lost their memory. There is a new bad guy, and this evil CPU goddess technically just likes everything 2D, i.e. SNK in the past. Of course, not anymore, but you know what I mean. And that's what the story's about. Gameplay-wise, overall, let's just say that it's not fun for a active turn-based RPG system. So how the game works is, first of all, enemies are on the screen, so there's no random encounter. People don't like that. And if you hit them, you get an advantage. Symbol attack, that's always been like a core system to turn-based Neptunia RPG games. But for this one, it's how the mechanic work is that each character has their own designated button. That's why they are in a formation of a diamond, each one based on a 4-face button. So I'm going to be referring the PlayStation because I'm a PlayStation fan. Each button is an attack for a character. And it depends which formation you do. You either attack, you buff the character, you debuff the enemy, or you heal. The problem is the game is way too fast. It's hard to level grind for this game. And if you miss it, you get confused, your character can actually die because, again, it's hard to get experience in this game. It's hard to get, unfortunately, money as well in this game. So you're going to have to grind a lot just to get enough money to buy stronger weapon, get stronger with experience, and also the weapon itself somehow also have its own leveling system that the more you use them, the stronger it gets. But again, it just takes too long, too many level grinding. That's like sort of the downside for this game. With that said, now I'm going to give my impression for each version. And the reason is 2-factor. Performance and censorship. So I already talked about how the mechanic works. To some extent, it's not really that good. You have to really pay attention. But when it comes to the performance with the game mechanic, it's a little tricky. So with that said first, I'm going to start my impression with the PlayStation 4 version. So this one runs in 60 frames. A lot of the input sort of react almost close to when you push the button, which is good because I'll explain it later. However, the downside is it's on the PlayStation. So like I said before, between 2017 to, I'm going to go with 2022, whatever, can't remember, Sony had a unofficial content policy rule that if certain graphics are deemed too revealing, to not meant for children, which is some of this game are not for children, the bottom line is they ask the developer to modify it. Not just remove it, but to modify the game in order to be released on PlayStation. And the backstory why they're doing that at the time, yes, former PlayStation executive Atsushi Morita said, to have a global standard. No such thing. A lot of people already said that. But to some extent, what he's trying to say is he wants to make every version equal, make it easy for the developer, which is, no, you want to make it easy for the developer, just make it to the game what it's supposed to be and quit whining and being woozy about it. Because as of right now, really, Xbox, Microsoft are the only one right now. Because if you heard the news, I know I'm just taking a side step on this one, is Variable Geo and a edgy shooter, they're like Saturn tribute game. It's not released on Steam and on Switch. I don't know about PlayStation. Didn't really see it. It was canceled for Xbox because they were told to tone it down more. So it sounds familiar. So that's why. That was Sony for a while. But lately, they're trying to go 180, but they're not quite there yet. I do digress. Bottom line, the censorship. Because the game runs in 60 frame. Again, the input are close to it. The reaction is close. But of course, censorship. So 2 of the CG scene are censored and people did not like it. And of course, believe it or not, when it first came out in Japan in 2018, the game was buggy. They had to do like a lot of update in the game, and to a point that when you have some sort of like glitches in the game and censorship on the PlayStation 4 version, yeah, the game got reviewed by to a point that a lot of people did say that to a point that Idea Factory, you might consider just going away from PlayStation. And if you notice right now, with the new management and Idea Factory Compile Hard, it seemed that they are not very supportive with PlayStation because the damage has been done. Sony of America screwed Compile Hard, Idea Factory, and again, like I said, credit to Endymion. Apparently there was a story about a PlayStation Civil War from California versus in Japan, but again, that's a different story there. So for the PlayStation 4 version of Super Neptunia RPG, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, it's still high. Yes, the points were deducted due to censorship, but the game itself, like I said, not really that good. But the frame rate and the reaction to the game is actually close, that it is playable. You do get enjoyed. If you don't care about the censorship politics, then you'll enjoy this one if you don't have a high-end PC. Now, we're moving on to the Switch version. Now, it's the opposite. Because this game runs no matter what, either in dock and on handheld. And yes, as of right now, reports are that this game, it's sort of not working 100% on the Switch 2, and they're trying to fix that. So, we're not going to include that part because this is a Switch game. This game came out in 2019, and by then you should already have a Switch. Not a Switch 2. Will it improve in the Switch 2? Well, right now they're having a hard time porting it to the Switch 2 via backwards compatibility, but again, that's a different story there. The Switch version it runs in 30 frame, but the downside is it's not only it's running in 30 frame, there are input lag in this game. Yes, FGC input lag. That to some extent, you try to push a button, it takes a while to react to it. And for a game that's active time battle, that you have to be fast, it's not really helping. And when there's too many characters in the game, it tends to slow down. That's also one of the problems with the Switch version. So to some extent, unless you only have a Switch, you might want to avoid it because the input lag, the game tends to slow down even if it's already been 30 frames. You're not going to have a fun time. And also, the problem is unless you're only Nintendo player and you're used to the button, it is reversed to the PlayStation version. A is to confirm, B is to cancel as of in the PlayStation version. Cross is to confirm, circle is to cancel. And why is that in Japan? Because people read from right to left, as in anybody else, they read left to right. It is what it is. Why Nintendo didn't change it? Because they're a very Nintendo Japanese company. Sony, like I said, they're trying to be more multicultural. But for me personally, I prefer X to be confirmed than A, but that's just me. However, the good side for the Switch version is it's uncensored. The 2 CG scene is its original. People, from what I understand, were buying the Switch version, especially myself, with the collector's edition because I want to support that censorship is bad, and that's why. Sadly, for this one, the score that I have to give is a 6 out of 10. But you see, wait a minute. It's not censored. Why are you giving it lower than the PlayStation? Because yeah, 2CG scene is uncensored, great, but does it really enhance the gameplay? To some extent, no. Like I said, 30 frame, it tends to drop, and the reaction is really, really slow than the PlayStation version. That's why it's 6 out of 10. But if you want the best experience of both worlds, then if you have a high-end PC that can run this game, I'm going to give my impression of the Steam version. I say as of right now, no matter what, this is the definite version to play. Because first of all, it's on Steam, it's on PC. You know, Idea Factory games on PC runs better no matter what. They go 60 frame. Neptunia V2R on Steam runs at 60 frame. I have it. I played it. Spoiler, maybe in the long run there will be a showcase for this one, but we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, it runs in 60 frame. Inputs are very, very active. The minute you push the button, the character reacts. And especially it really helps when, again, like I said, you have to think fast. And not only that, it also, the 2CG scene are uncensored. So you're getting two things for this game. You're getting both world for this game. 60 frame, inputs are very active, frame rates are very active, and the CG scene is uncensored. But the downside is, to some extent, is unless you have a strong PC, you might not have a hard time running this game, but I don't think it's demanding. So with that said, I'm going to give the score for the Steam version a 9 out of 10. Yeah, surprisingly. Because the reason is, you got everything you wanted. 60 frame, reactive gameplay, uncensored CG scene. The only downside, like I say, is you have to understand how to make it run on the Steam. You got to do research if it can run on your computer. If it's not, because one of the downsides with Steam, no matter what, is that it shouldn't be that hard, because I do play Steam game, is that to some extent, you might not be able to play the game because of your computer setup. I mean, it is hard. You got to do homework. That's the reason sometimes people just alternatively just go play in console, because it's already been preset. It comes to computer, comes to PC, especially on Steam. Push cut to shove, you have to adjust how to make your game run, but it is worth it, especially if you want that full experience, especially on Super Neptunia RPG. So that's why it's a 9 out of 10. So there you go, my impression of the 3 games from it. The game itself, again, gameplay wise, it's not bad, but it is very confusing. It's very fast paced. You gotta really pay attention. Unfortunately, when it comes to level grinding, you're gonna be level grinding a lot. Story-wise, it's just like Neptunia Rebirth 1. And yes, I did talk about this on my secondary channel, that there was at one point a rumor. However, it was already been debugged and nothing really happened. And that is, Super Neptunia RPG was supposed to have a connection with Neptunia Rebirth Plus 1. That there was a exclusive content for Rebirth 1 Plus that kind of make a reference to Super Neptunia RPG. And there was supposed to be some sort of reference to Rebirth Plus 1 or Super Neptunia RPG via update or DLC or whatever. But that rumor has been debunked. From what I understand, the developer on both sides basically said was, no, they never really heard anything about it. It's just that they just wanted to just have a Neptunia game at the time. They were promoting Super Neptunia RPG. How do you do it? By just releasing an enhanced version of Neptunia Rebirth on the PlayStation 4, which that's actually finally now coming on the West in 2025. Could be 2026. Of right now, there's not really much of talk. The only announcement is it's going to be released, but different story there. And then when it comes to the censorship, it is an unfortunate. It was a year, 2018, 2019, that this game got censored to a point that even Artisan could not even say anything about it. I did talk about it, that there was a AMA, and one thing they said was, please don't talk about censorship. And if you don't know, at the time, there was some report that you're not allowed to disclose about censorship on Sony platform, and if you do, you get blacklisted. It is kind of assy, but it is what it is. It was a business. Again, it's 2025. Things are sort of changing them around. Things are changing around with some of the game they offer. Granted, they're shovelware. Like, there's like hentai simulator, hentai combat. Like, the word hentai now, you can see it now on the PlayStation Store. Before that, they're trying to avoid it. But again, different people, maybe change of management, different perspective. Hopefully make PlayStation Japan again, just saying, because that it should be. But that's a different story there. So there you go. My impression of Super Neptunia RPG on PlayStation 4, Switch, and Steam. So which one should you prefer? If you have an option, I would go with the Steam version. But if you're limited, pick whatever you're comfortable, whatever you have. Overall, they do play fine. But experience-wise, it depends on you want to see the CG scene or you want to see the game run good, the performance. It's up to you. So with that, I'll see you guys later.